Imagine a morning in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, where golden sunlight filters through the trees, casting a warm glow over the red dirt roads. But beneath that radiant light, a secret is quietly being woven, a plot that threatens not just a nation, but the courage and wisdom of a single man. Have you ever wondered, how does a leader, standing against the pressures of global powers, protect his people's dreams without losing himself? This is not a tale of roaring battles or thunderous threats. This is the story of Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, a man who turned truth into his sharpest weapon and dignity into an unbreakable shield. In the modest office of the presidential palace, Traoré sat, his keen eyes scanning documents on agricultural policy. He was more than a leader. He was a symbol of resilience, a man who understood that every decision he made touched not just the nation, but the lives of ordinary people, the farmers, the children like Mamadou, and the young women like Fatou, who carried the dreams of an entire generation. But that morning, an urgent meeting request from a supposed French businessman named Jean-Luc Dupont disrupted the quiet. This man came with promises of technological investment, but Traoré, with his razor-sharp intuition, sensed something amiss. Was this an opportunity for Burkina Faso to rise, or a trap set by those who sought to control its future? This story will take you on a gripping journey where truth confronts deception and integrity faces manipulation. Through my lens, as a writer passionate about tales of morality and humanity, you will see Traoré not just as a politician, but as a guardian of humanity's deepest values. Prepare to be swept into a narrative that is not only about politics, but about courage, unity, and the power of a small but proud nation. Will you stay until the end? Because, trust me, this story is worth your time. In the soft morning light of Ouagadougou, inside the simple yet dignified meeting room of the presidential palace, Ibrahim Traoré sat across from a man named Jean-Luc Dupont. The man entered with an air of confidence, his expensive suit gleaming under the lights, his smile polished to conceal his true intentions. Dupont introduced himself as a French businessman, representing a prestigious tech company, offering an investment that could transform Burkina Faso's agriculture. But Traoré, with eyes as sharp as a hunter's and instincts honed by experience, sensed something wrong from the very first moment. He didn't rush or betray his suspicion. Instead, he smiled, shaking Dupont's hand with a grip that was welcoming yet firm, sending a silent message, "I'm watching you." Before Dupont's arrival, Traoré had ordered his intelligence team, led by his devoted assistant Marie, to investigate the man's background. The results were unsurprising. Jean-Luc Dupont appeared in no official records of tech companies. Instead, faint traces pointed to a network of European organizations long coveting Burkina Faso's rich agricultural resources. Marie, her voice calm but tinged with concern, reported, "Mr. President, this man is no businessman. There's intelligence suggesting he's a spy, sent to probe our policies." Traoré nodded, the corner of his mouth curling into a subtle smile. "Good," he said, his tone as casual as if discussing the weather. "Let him come. I want to see what game he's playing." As Dupont sat down, opening his sleek black briefcase and presenting carefully crafted documents, Traoré observed his every move. Dupont's words were calculated, each sentence dripping with the allure of grand promises. A digital platform for agriculture, increased yields, reduced losses. But Traoré, with his deep understanding of his nation, noticed vague details in the documents. Ambiguous figures, murky terms. Dupont spoke of privileged access to agricultural resources as if it were a given, as if Burkina Faso were a commodity to be bartered. Traoré held the documents, flipping through them with an impassive face, but inside everything was clear. This was no investment offer. It was an attempt to seize control. Rather than confront Dupont head-on, Traoré chose a bolder path. He decided to set a sophisticated trap, turning Dupont's deceit into a weapon against him. "This looks promising," he said, his voice calm, almost friendly, "but I'll need time to review the terms. We'll discuss further later." Dupont, visibly frustrated at failing to extract more, nodded and left, leaving behind a trail of poorly concealed arrogance. The moment the door closed, Traoré summoned Marie and the intelligence team. "Now we know who he is," he said, handing over the documents. "Prepare a plan. We'll give him what he wants, but what we want him to have." In the hours that followed, Traoré's intelligence team worked tirelessly. They crafted a set of fake documents, designed with precision to resemble Burkina Faso's strategic plans for agriculture and technology. But every line, every number, was part of the trap, worthless information, or even potentially damaging to anyone who tried to use it. Traoré knew that if Dupont was truly a spy, he would deliver these documents to his masters, and in doing so, they would reveal their true intention. When Dupont was invited back to the palace, Traoré greeted him with calculated warmth. "Monsieur Dupont," he said, his voice steady, "we deeply appreciate your interest. I have good news." He slid a new set of documents across the table, his eyes never leaving Dupont. "This is a detailed report on our future plans. I believe your company will find it very useful." Dupont, unsuspecting, took the documents, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He had no idea that each page was a thread in the net slowly tightening around him. As Dupont left, Traoré ordered his intelligence team to track his every move. "See who he gives these documents to," he said, his tone firm yet composed. Over the next few days, the team observed Dupont meeting with European diplomats, handing over the fake documents as if they were priceless secrets. He had fallen into the trap, and in doing so, unwittingly exposed the network of those behind him, those who sought to pressure Burkina Faso into abandoning its self-reliant policies for foreign interests. In that moment, Traoré was more than a leader. He was a master storyteller, transforming a dangerous plot into an opportunity to affirm his nation's strength and dignity. But the story didn't end there. This trap was merely the first step in a larger plan, one that would not only protect Burkina Faso, but inspire an entire nation to rise for the truth. In the heart of Ouagadougou, where red dirt roads blend with the vibrant pulse of a resilient people, Ibrahim Traoré was not just a president, but a beacon of hope for ordinary souls. The unmasking of Jean-Luc Dupont, the spy disguised as a businessman, was not merely a personal triumph, but a testament to the power of a united community. Behind Traoré stood figures like Marie, his steadfast assistant whose eyes flickered with worry yet never wavered in faith, Fatou, the young woman carrying her late mother's dreams, and Amadou, the young scientist who turned simple ideas into reality. These seemingly small individuals joined Traoré in crafting a narrative of dignity and pride for Burkina Faso. Marie, with her calm demeanor and fiery heart, was the bridge between Traoré's bold decisions and the harsh realities of the nation. When Traoré ordered the investigation into Dupont, it was Marie who led the intelligence team, coordinating every detail to ensure no loophole was overlooked. She worked not just for duty, but for the belief that each action was a brick in the foundation of a future for children like Mamadou, who once knew only underfunded schools. In a rare moment, as Traoré shared his plan to use fake documents to ensnare Dupont, Marie nodded, her hands clenching as if grasping the weight of the nation. "We must do this right, Mr. President," she said, her voice low but resolute. For Marie, this was more than a political task. It was a promise to the farmers, the mothers, the people who entrusted their hopes to them. But if Marie was the bridge, Fatou was the flame of hope. The young woman from Bobo Dioulasso who traveled hours to reach the Innovation Center in Ouagadougou carried not just a suitcase but the legacy of her mother, a woman who dreamed of a future where her daughter could stand tall and speak her truth. When Fatou stepped onto the stage at a ceremony celebrating the Dignity Through Self-Reliance program, she trembled, clutching her mother's worn book. "My mother always taught me to fight for our dreams," she said, her voice breaking yet fierce. "Today, thanks to this center, I know I can fulfill hers, not just for me, but for my nation." The crowd erupted in applause, and Traoré, standing beside her, embraced Fatou with the tenderness of a brother. He knew she spoke not just for herself, but for millions of young Africans yearning for a future unshackled by external forces. Amadou, a young scientist with a radiant smile, was another piece of Traoré's communal tapestry. In a small village where crops once depended solely on rain, Amadou developed a sustainable irrigation system from recycled materials. "Before we only prayed for rain," he shared at an event in the capital, his eyes alight with pride. Now, with government support, we can farm year-round. Amadou's words were not just about technology. They were about faith rekindled, about a community given the tools to shape its destiny. Traoré, standing amid lush cornfields, listened to Amadou with profound attention. He knew that each of Amadou's successes, each of Fatou's smiles, was proof of his vision, a self-reliant Burkina Faso where people didn't merely survive, but thrived with dignity. The strength of this community lay not only in individuals like Mari, Fatou, or Amadou, but in how Traoré inspired them to be part of something greater. He didn't command from above. He walked among them, listened, and empowered. During a visit to a small village, Traoré met Mamadou, a girl with sparkling eyes, holding a new school uniform, a gift from his land reform programs. "Mr. President," Mamadou said, her voice trembling with emotion, "this is for you. I want to show you we're learning to do great things." Traoré knelt, accepting the small gift, and smiled. "Mamadou," he said, "you owe me nothing. You're proving that when we give people the right tools, they can conquer the world." Moments like these forged Burkina Faso's strength. Traoré understood that to defeat plots like Dupont's, he needed not just intelligence but the heart of his people. Every citizen, from Marie with her quiet dedication, to Fatou with her grand dreams, to Amadou with his humble innovations, was a gem in the nation's crown. They weren't just beneficiaries of Traoré's policies, they were co-creators of Burkina Faso's future. And as Traoré stood among them, he saw not just a country, but a family, one ready to face any challenge, not for anyone else, but for themselves. Under the brilliant light of the press conference room in Ouagadougou's presidential palace, Ibrahim Traoré stepped onto the podium, draped in traditional Burkinabe attire, vibrant patterns proclaiming his nation's identity and pride. The crowd of journalists, local and international, sat in silence, the air taut, as if they sensed this moment would shape not only Burkina Faso's future, but the world's perception of a small yet steadfast nation. Traoré, with a voice both warm and incisive, began, "Ladies and gentlemen, today I wish to address a delicate but critical matter. We were approached by someone posing as a businessman, but in truth a spy sent to steal our nation's secrets." The room held its breath, and in that instant, Traoré was more than a president. He was the storyteller of a people, turning a dark conspiracy into a powerful message of dignity and truth. The press conference was not just a political event, it was a strategic strike, meticulously calculated to expose Jean-Luc Dupont and his backers without plunging Burkina Faso into an unnecessary international conflict. Traoré held up photographs captured by his intelligence team, showing Dupont exchanging fake documents with European diplomats. He said, his voice resonating with calm authority, "Were prepared by us to mislead those who sought to manipulate us. Burkina Faso is not prey to be hunted." The crowd erupted in applause, especially from local journalists who felt national pride surging within them. But Traoré didn't stop at unmasking the enemy. He transformed the moment into a call for unity, not just for Burkina Faso's people, but for the world. "We are a resilient people, and we will not tolerate any interference that harms our values or our future." From that press conference, a tidal wave of media erupted, fueled by Traoré's Truth for Sovereignty campaign. Hashtags like Sovereignty for Dignity and Africa Without Fear spread rapidly across social media, not just in Burkina Faso, but across Africa and beyond. Posts sharing Amadou's story of sustainable irrigation or Fatou's tribute to her mother's dreams were shared thousands of times, each one a brick in the edifice of a self-reliant, proud Burkina Faso. Young people in neighboring countries began using these hashtags to tell their own stories, turning Traoré's campaign into a global movement for dignity and autonomy. A post from a Nigerian student read, "Today I saw Burkina Faso stand for truth. We can do it too." Those words were more than praise. They were a spark igniting hope for a continent often viewed through the lens of pity. Perhaps the most surprising reaction came from a distant corner of the world, the United States. Donald Trump, known for his blunt remarks and skepticism, watched Traoré's press conference live. In a later interview, when asked about the Burkinabe leader, Trump raised an eyebrow, flashed a rare smile, and said, "This guy's something special." He didn't just expose the spy, He showed the world they can't be played. Maybe I underestimated him. That admission, however reluctant, was a testament to the power of Traoré's message. It crossed borders, reaching even those who scarcely thought of a small West African nation. Traoré needed no weapons or wealth to earn respect. He needed only the truth, and the way he wielded it like a sharpened spear. Traoré's media campaign was not just about exposing DuPont. It was about reshaping Burkina Faso's story in the world's eyes. Instead of letting international media paint a picture of a weak, manipulable nation, Traoré and his team, led by Marie, told a different tale, one of a proud, innovative, and unyielding people. At an event in the capital, Traoré stood before hundreds, from farmers to students, and declared, "Those who seek to divide us do not understand who we are. We are a people who value truth, and we will use truth to build our future." His words didn't just echo in the room, they reverberated through posts, videos, and conversations worldwide. If I, as a writer captivated by human stories, were in that press conference, I would feel an electric current running through the room, not of anger, but of pride. I would see in the eyes of local journalists, in Marie's smile from behind the scenes, an unshakable belief that they were making history. Traoré, with his wisdom and compassion, turned a conspiracy into an opportunity to unite not just his nation, but all who yearn for a fairer world. His message, that dignity is not for sale, touched the hearts of millions, from the cornfields of Kudugu to phone screens thousands of miles away. Beneath the golden sunset of Ouagadougou, the Innovation Center stood tall like a lighthouse in the heart of Burkina Faso, not for its concrete walls or gleaming roof, but for the dreams taking root within. Ibrahim Traoré stepped onto the stage, simple in traditional attire, his eyes gleaming with resolve and empathy. Before him was a crowd, farmers with calloused hands, students with eager gazes, and children like Mamadou, clutching new books thanks to his reform programs. But the heart of that day's ceremony was not Traoré. It was Fatou, the young woman from Bobo Dioulasso, who had traveled hours to stand there, holding her mother's book like a talisman. When Traoré invited her to the stage, the room fell silent, awaiting the story of a girl carrying the dreams of a generation. Fatou, her voice trembling yet resolute, began, "My mother taught me we must fight for what we believe in. Today, thanks to this center, I know I can make her dream real, not just for me, but for my country." The crowd roared with applause, and Traoré, standing beside her, embraced Fatou with a father's gentleness. He said nothing, but his smile said everything. This was the legacy he sought, not grandiose speeches or political victories, but people like Fatou, given the chance to shape their own futures. In that moment, the tale of Jean-Luc Dupont, the spy who tried to deceive Burkina Faso, seemed but a minor note in the grand symphony of dignity and truth Traoré had composed. But Traoré's legacy didn't end at the Innovation Center or Fatou's smiles. It spread through the cornfields of Kudugu, where farmers now grew crops year-round thanks to innovations like Amadou's. It echoed in classrooms where children like Mamadou wore new uniforms and dreamed of becoming doctors, engineers, or even presidents. And it lived on in the Truth for Sovereignty campaign, a movement that not only shielded Burkina Faso from foreign schemes, but inspired a continent. Hashtags like Sovereignty for Dignity continued to spread, carrying the story of a small but steadfast nation that told the world it didn't need permission to dream. Traoré knew that defeating DuPont was not the end but the start of a longer journey. Pressures from global powers lingered, threats of sanctions loomed in headlines, yet he stood unfazed. During a visit to a small village, when a journalist asked if he feared the consequences of exposing DuPont, Traoré held a freshly picked ear of corn, smiled, and said, "Sanctions are just a word. What matters is what they represent, attempts to control our future. I'd rather face sanctions than lose our dignity." Those words were more than a political statement. They were a reminder that a nation's true strength lies not in resources or armies, but in self-respect and unity. If I, as a writer enthralled by human stories, stood in the crowd at that innovation center, I would feel an indescribable energy, not the pride of victory, but faith in a brighter future. I would see in Fatou's eyes an unquenchable fire, in Mamadou's smile a promise of tomorrow, and in Traoré's stance a rare humility for a leader. He sought not personal glory, but a world where ordinary people could stand tall and say, "This is our story, and we will write its next chapter." This story, if told through my lens, would be more than a spy unmasked or a nation defended. It is about the moral choices we face daily, between truth and deceit, dignity and submission. Traoré chose truth, not because it was easy, but because it was the only path to true freedom. And as he stood among his people, he posed a question to the world. What will you do when faced with the line between truth and lies? The answer, as Burkina Faso showed, lies not in grand words, but in small, steadfast acts, like a seed sown in arid soil, blooming at last into a verdant forest.